And we're recording.
Woo!
Ashlee, thank you so much. We've been trying to do this for a while now.
Yeah.
So quick introduction. You are someone that I met in paramedic school. We went to paramedic school together because you wanted to be a nurse, but there's a long waiting list, like a 2-year waiting list to get into the nursing program.
Yeah.
Paramedic can get into right away, do the year-long program there, and then you do the bridge program, which is another year. So by the time you get to nursing school, if you do the paramedic bridge route, you're already there.
Yeah, I beat him to it.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. Well, do you
and then
feel
I got critical care background.
Ooh, badass. Well, so with that being said, too, do you think that doing the paramedic school and all the clinical hours with that made you a better nurse in the end, or at least give you more practical skills?
Absolutely. It was so funny because I mean, obviously, like, I went to nursing school with all paramedic students, but I would just, like, you know, I still had friends who were in nursing school that weren't in a bridge program like me, and, like, they were just struggling so hard. And, like, I'm not going to say nursing school is easy by any means, but, like, I feel like I just, like, passed with flying colors. Like, I wasn't, like, crying all the time, and, like, I still, like, went out with my friends, and, like, you know, I just, like, I had so much knowledge from, I mean, when you think about how many, you know, like, clinicals that you have to do as a paramedic, that's so much hands-on patient experience. Like, I knew way more than your average, like, brand new grad nurse going straight into nursing school.
Oh yeah, you had a lot of practical experience with that too. I mean, well, paramedic school by itself is savage. Like, it needs to be longer than a year. It really does.
Yeah,
time management's the hardest part of it, and I guess if you get behind it all, you are fucked.
Yeah.
Like, all the clinical hours and all the classwork and the pace, like, you're studying for a whole week, learning like the Krebs cycle is just learning the Krebs cycle, then forgetting the Krebs cycle.
Yep.
That's the cycle of it, because it's
like
no
constant brain dumping.
It is. You learn all this stuff, you dump it out into a test, then you almost forget it the next week because you have nothing, because now you're doing pulmonology. Or now you're trying to
nursing
EKGs.
School is the same exact way too. It's like you're learning for the test, and then once I graduated nursing school and I started my first job, I was like, I don't know anything. And, like, I was talking to other new nurses, and even nurses that had been nurses for a few years, and they were like, we all started our first job not knowing anything. You learn as you go. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Even the fire academy. So I went through that this past fall, like I was saying, like, even that, it's so fast paced. And my program was 22 weeks, which is longer than a lot of them are in Florida, at least. And even then, I felt like as soon as I learned, like, the technical aspects of something, I would forget it. So I showed up to, like, my orientation on day one, and I'm like, I feel like I barely know enough to not get myself killed in the first day.
Yeah. We're probably scaring all of your listeners. Like, we save lives for a living.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and we're good at it too. We're some of the better ones. But I mean, it's just like when these programs were developed too, like, the fields have evolved so much since when the programs were developed.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, they're packing more and more and more information into the same number of credit hours required by the state. And then you unfortunately get a lot of schools that end up becoming like nurse or paramedic factories, where they just push out people. They want you to pass the test and go through it. I was talking to a retired firefighter neighbor of mine who used to teach at one of the schools, or at least knew people that did. And there are people who were failing, and they just weren't doing it. They just needed some more time. They would have been fine. They just needed some more time.
Yeah.
The school administrators were pressuring them to be like, well, just curve the grade, just do this, do that. And it became a money thing, where they just rather push out people who are either going to get themselves or somebody else killed and make the money. I don't know if they just didn't realize how important the practical application was, or if they just wanted the money. But either way, you're not doing the service to the community that you should be doing. And the entire idea is helping others in your community, especially.
Yeah,
it's especially crazy. People who are overwhelmed and not ready for it. You're not doing any good for anything.
Yeah.
So anyway, one of the main reasons that I wanted to have you on here was talk about, let's talk about what's got everyone's attention too. So you were working as a nurse on a COVID unit, and you had a bad shift, and you wrote a Facebook post about some of the struggles you went through, some of the struggles that the healthcare field in general was having with everything that was going on, and you were dispelling some myths about what was happening and kind of shedding light on the reality of it. So that got my attention. That got the world's attention. That post went viral, and you ended up doing an interview with Good Morning America.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which first off, that's awesome. Like, I'm really, well,
yeah.
I'm very, very stoked that our side of the story is getting told now. What I
Yeah.
wanted to do is just kind of give you an opportunity, because I know they cut your interview short.
Yeah.
You know, like Legacy Media and the way that they have so many time constraints, they ought to cut stuff short.
Mm-hmm.
But well, I obviously have a tiny, tiny percentage of a fraction of that audience, but I wanted to give you a chance to kind of talk about that and what's been going on with that. Because I know it's been six. I mean, I quit my job because of how the struggles with healthcare.
Yeah.
And you were in a similar boat. So so what compelled you to write that post in the first place? If you want to talk about what you wrote on that too.
Yeah. So when like COVID first became a thing, you want to call it, I guess when it first reached the US in higher numbers, I wasn't here. I was in Africa. I was on a medical trip there, and I was like seeing it on social media here and there, but like being that far on the other side of the world, like I wasn't on social media a lot, and I was just seeing few posts, and I'm like, dang, like this is killing a lot of people over there. And then I started seeing more and more people talk about it. And then I personally was like, oh, people are just being dramatic. Like, this is what happened when the flu started. It's just another, type of flu. And people want to be over dramatic and cause attention and mass hysteria and whatever. And so I went on my way throughout Africa, finished my trip, and then I came back. And when I came back, I was sent to a COVID unit my first shift back at work.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Welcome
I was
back.
floated. I was floated. And I was a traveler at that hospital. I was a traveler contract nurse. So, like, of course, I'm first afloat, which is fine. But they sent me there. And then all it took was literally one shift. And I was like, holy crap, like, this is very real. And it's really, really scary. And I was like, I need to take this more seriously. Like, I wasn't taking it seriously because I hadn't seen it firsthand. It's hard for me to believe a lot of stuff that you see on social media. And I don't really watch the news. I think a lot of it is fabricated, and obviously everybody just tries to push agendas and which way they want to. So I think it's all surrounded by negativity too, and rarely positivity. So I just kind of like steer away from it.
Sure.
But having firsthand experience with it, I was really, really scared. I lost a patient on my first shift, and he was 36 years old. He had no health comorbidities at all. The only problem he had was psoriasis. And if nobody knows what that is, it's just a skin condition that causes scaling of the skin, and it's itchy. It doesn't affect your immune drive or anything like that. So he really had no reason to die, other than he probably threw a clot and had a PE. That's all I can think of, because now we're seeing that COVID is causing clots. But and then I had another patient who was in his 50s, every comorbidity you could think of, and he was actively dying on my shift, but I think died the next day. And then I had another guy who was like 85, smoker his whole life, and he was being discharged that day. So like it really put me into perspective, like, oh, it doesn't favor one person over the other. Like, of course, if you have comorbidities, you are more at risk, but it doesn't favor anybody. I mean, it can kill anybody. And it really, really scared me when my young patient died. And what really upset me that day was the control over the PPE. So when I arrived onto the unit, there was a designated person who was, what are they called? Oh, they were called a site manager, quote unquote. Oh, no. This was a person who either is a lab tech, it could be a transporter, a patient transporter, like somebody who just pushes someone in a wheelchair to a different floor. Like, they're not educated on anything. They put them through a 5-minute course, told them what we're supposed to be doing, and then they are the decision maker for the rest of your shift about your PPE. So
people who generally don't have any background in actual patient care,
no, wearing the not PPE, at all.
They're not wearing it. Who don't understand what's like.
My guy was a radiology tech. He was a radiology tech. So thankfully for my shift that day, my guy was super like low key, like easygoing, and he let me do whatever I wanted to, because let's be real, at the end of the day, nobody who has no medical background is going to tell me what I'm going to wear when I go into a room, not even my boss or the CEO of the hospital. Like, yeah. I'm going to wear what I want to wear to protect myself. So, he stood at the front of the door. He had to write down, and I had to sign every time I went in and out of a room. If I wanted to wear an N95 in a room that wasn't receiving an aerosolized procedure, I would get written up for it. but he wouldn't do that. Like, he was like, I'm not going to write you up, just do whatever you want to. Like, he
So
didn't
he's
care,
violating policy that stated
that
if you
would
were
be
wearing
the policy.
if you were wearing the mask that would actually protect you from this.
Right, but this hospital was standing by at the
out.
time that CDC wasn't recommending that. So we'll keep finishing this part, but so
Okay.
that was just like crazy to me. And I was refusing to not wear an N95 in any room. I didn't care whether they were intubated. I didn't care if they were just breathing. I didn't care. Like, I was like, I'm not going in there without an N95. So, then I had another shift. I had a second shift, and the rules were changing again. So it was, you can just wear a surgical mask, even if it's an aerosolized procedure or an intubated patient. You only need an N95 if you're the person doing the intubation. And I'm like, what? Like we know as healthcare providers, if this is a respiratory virus and you're introducing respiratory droplet particles into the air and you're aerosolizing it, you're automatically creating something airborne. 100%. We know that.
Well, especially even if you're intubating, everyone in that room. So if you're intubating, you're going to be pre-oxygenating with the BVM. You're going to be aerosolizing that shit everywhere.
Right. So
you're not like, I mean, no one's holding a seal perfectly, or nothing's getting out.
Right.
It's going to happen either way.
And there was just like stirred up emotions between all the nurses that day, and like we all like were just having our side conversation, whatever. And you know, I went home that night and I was like, this is crazy. Like, I was like, this is literally like, nobody would ever tell a firefighter that they have to run it. They wouldn't tell you. Well, firefighters do this because they're brave, but nobody would ever tell a firefighter, you have to run into that building and save that person, even though we have no equipment for you right now. You have to. Nobody would ever say that. That's crazy.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Nobody would ever tell a military personnel to run into a line of fire without their weapon on them. You have to go and fight, but we're not going to give you a gun. Like, nobody would ever do that. So when you're talking about something like that and something like this, we're talking about the same thing. This is a deadly virus, and you're expecting me to go into the room without the correct protection. And like, it just was so crazy to me. And I was just like, I more so wrote my post. It really wasn't about bringing attention to healthcare professionals at first. That's not what my original thought was when I was writing it. My original thought was, I was so tired of seeing all of my friends from high school and people that I knew out partying and having mass parties and all this stuff, and like not doing like social distancing and self-isolating, quarantining. And it just like made me scared for everybody else. Like, I was like, shit, I need to tell people that this shit is real and that this is a real problem, so that my family and my friends and people that I care about can like realize this. And like, I can get my own story out there, my own personal experience, and they can realize like, oh, we need to be scared. Like, this is a real thing. And then, you know, I got a lot of stuff from healthcare providers because I also added in there about the PPE problem. And then I was like, you know what? All these people that are commenting that, they're right. This is more of a problem. The PPE is way more of a problem.
Right.
And, you know, the people, you know, your civilians and other people are going to do whatever they want to do, and you can't always control them. But like, if I can bring awareness to healthcare providers and getting them better protection, then I'm definitely going to do that. So, you know, I talked to a couple of people at the hospital about my concerns about the PPE. They did not care. They were not concerned. So I quit, and I was a traveler. So I just completely ended in the middle of my contract. I have done, I think 13 travel contracts, 12 or 13. And I have never in my life quit a contract, literally ever. So I was really scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. I've heard that you can get like penalized and you have to pay whatever the outpay for you would be for the remainder of the contract. But I told my recruiter why I was quitting. He totally stood by me. He was like, 100%, you're out. Like, your safety comes first. You let me know when you want to get back in the game. Like, he was freaking awesome, super supportive, amazing. I'm
really glad you had that support. Like, that's
like, I was really scared.
I had semi-different circumstances when I left the fire department. After only a week of being there, I was terrified of burning every bridge there was. I mean, I left for mental health reasons, but I mean, like, it was a situation where I wasn't safe where I was, and those around me weren't safe, and in a situation where I had to get out. And I was very, very fortunate as well to have people who were like, hey, no, that comes first. We're gonna take care of you, make sure you're good to go. And I'm really glad you had that support too, because it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And I can imagine the same thing for you, for sure.
I mean, I never expected it obviously to go viral, but then like the next morning, like Good Morning America producer called me and she was like, we'd really love to have you on the show, blah, blah. And I had to like sit down and think about it for like a couple of days before I said yes, because I was like, you know, this is a live interview and like, I don't know if I could personally handle the negativity that could come my way from doing this.
Yeah, you're gonna get shit no matter what.
Yeah, so like, I thought about it for a couple of days. I let my post sit and see what type of responses I kept getting from the post. And honestly, I don't remember how many comments or how many shares there was. It was like insane.
I just watched your, the original post. I can't remember. But I know the video at least you posted about it had like 36,000 shares.
So let's say 36,000 people. I think I got 3 hateful messages. So like,
a really good ratio.
Great number.
Hell
so,
yeah.
Like, I thought about that and I was like, you know what? Like, there's so many people who are super supportive of me and like have my back and are saying all these kind, positive things. Like, I had doctors reaching out to me from India. Like, it was insane.
That's amazing.
Like, yeah. So I was like, you know what?
I'll have a birthday and all 3 people say, fuck you, Justin. That's awesome. So that kind of encouraged you to do it?
Yeah. And I was like, I have an opportunity to have a platform to speak up like amongst healthcare providers and like, yeah. So I was like, I'm going to do it.
I love it. I'm really glad you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you see, did you have the live interviews? I have to admit, I only watched the video that you posted of.
So I did. And what ended up happening was it was like a 30-minute live interview and they took like 10-second clips from the whole interview and then posted me on Good Morning America for like a 2-week streak, like different clips of it. Oh my God. And I was like, oh, that's not how I thought it was going to be at all.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, sorry, hold on 1 second. My phone is going to die. I got to plug it in.
You're good. The audio's still working. You're fine. No worries.
But yeah, so I was just like, it was mind blowing. Like I never thought something like that would happen.
The bits that they got, are they at least like were you ever taken out of context? Or they make you seem like you were saying something you weren't saying?
No, and that was like the craziest part about it is like I really was worried that they would have spun something I would have said and turned it into something different. And like even the producer was like, you know, we really are supportive of you and we want to try to get your message out for other people. And she was like, anything that you feel like you say, if you want to take it back, like we'll cut it for you. And they just made me feel super calm and like cool about it.
That's
and
awesome.
They were super supportive and so kind and nice. And that was really shocking to me. And that just like showed me that like that is genuinely like a good program that cares about people.
Yeah, definitely gives a leg up on most of the other morning shows and media outlets for sure.
Yeah, what's crazy is like, so this part is so funny. So, you know, one of their main, what do you call them? Like talk show hosts? One of their main talk show hosts is Michael Stranahan. Do you know that?
Oh yeah,
so
Michael Stranahan.
So when they told me that I was doing an interview, they're like, your interview is going to be with a guy named Michael. And I was like, oh my God, it's totally him. And then when they did the interview, it was like a video chat, but only my face was on the screen. Theirs was blacked out. They don't show you their face, and I could only hear his voice. So like, I have no idea who it was.
He has a very distinct voice, though, I feel like.
Yeah, so I just like, I don't know. I don't know who it was.
Did you just assume it was him, and you're like flirting and getting all bashful and stuff?
I kind of don't feel like it was him. It didn't
Probably
really sound
intern.
like him.
Yeah,
I think it was a coincidence that it was just another Michael.
I don't think Michael Strahan's sitting in the back doing random interviews from Facebook in the green room.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But so overall, though, it was a good experience, and you got the message.
Yeah, it was a really good experience. And like now, I just like follow Good Morning America on social media, and I'm like, oh, I like them.
Oh, So following it next, I mean, I don't watch TV really ever, but so do you feel like they kind of do the consistent thing? You're getting good overall positive messages from what they do, not so much of like the sensationalizing that a lot of other outlets are doing at the moment?
Hold on, I can't really like hear you. Ever since I took my headphones out, I can't really hear you.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm like
No, you're
messing
good.
up this whole podcast.
Hey, it's
Let me put my headphones back in.
really professional until this happened. Oh yeah, me drinking beer, cursing at my friends.
Okay, there you go.
How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you way better with the headphones in. I don't know. Sorry.
No, you're good. Don't worry about it. It makes it authentic, I feel like. So increase the appeal.
Yeah.
They know it's not some overly produced random intern named Mike.
Yeah. You didn't hire me.
Yeah, it's definitely people that know each other. Otherwise, this is not working.
So what did you say before that?
So I was saying, so since you've been following Good Morning America now, so do you feel like they are more trustworthy source of like news, or at least they're trying to proliferate better content and not just sensationalizing shit?
Definitely, because like every 10-second clip that they took from me and posted it like each morning, it totally went with what the agenda was or what they were talking about, and like they were really honest about everything they said about me before they like released it. And yeah, it was just like, it's crazy because I just feel like you can't trust like any programs. But
oh yeah, that's why I'm so amazed they didn't fuck with you.
Yeah, I have trust in them now.
Wait a minute. You're saying they didn't try to spin everything?
Yeah.
They didn't turn you into a vicious racist or anything like that?
I know, it's crazy.
That's nuts. So so since then you you left that job, and oh, that's right. So you actually ended up contracting COVID-19.
I did. So I quit that job. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to take off like 2 months and just do whatever the hell I want and travel and all these things. And then I was like, you're an idiot. You can't travel. You can't go anywhere.
You were just yelling at people for doing exactly that. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to do all the things.
So I sat in my house for like maybe a week. And I was like, yeah, I'm getting a little bored. So I reached out to a recruiter and I was like, hey, is there anything you can get me, you know, that I'm 100% guaranteed protected PPE?
Your audio is starting to stretch out on my end. Sound like you just said get guaranteed PPE in slow motion. Oh no, the simulation's breaking.
She was like, well, you know, we have a hospital. Let me try. Hold on.
Hang on, you just came back. What's really funny is every time we lose the video, like your name just pops up, and it's your maiden name.
It's so weird.
I'm like, Zoom came out way after that, I thought.
Okay, you can hear me good now, though?
Yeah, I can hear you good now. Yeah,
Okay.
so what I heard you saying in like super slow motion was you called your recruiter, you're seeing if there's anything that you can get you where you're guaranteed to have PPE.
Yeah, good
Okay.
PPE. And she was like, well, we have this hospital. It's a pop-up hospital in Baltimore, whatever that meant at the time. And they're just having COVID patients there, but they're guaranteeing 100% protective equipment, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay. So I got on the phone with the manager. The manager was absolutely amazing. She was super sweet, and it was crazy because, like, okay, we're talking about Baltimore, Maryland. My manager was from the same city as me in South Florida. Like, we grew up in the city. I'm gonna go. So I took this assignment. It was supposed to be 8 weeks long, and yeah, it was a hospital that has been shut down for 4 years now. It was a very small community hospital, and it just had a freestanding ER. So they didn't take much, anything that required surgery or anything. They just went somewhere else. It was basically like you go there for the common cold, like you would an urgent care center. So they opened up all of the units and created it a COVID hospital. Incredible teamwork. You know, it was crazy to see this thing happen from nothing to something. And
everybody there was a traveler and everybody there was thrown into the same situation at the same time. So like we were all like super supportive of one another, like great teamwork. Like it was just awesome. And I had the best manager. She was amazing.
That's awesome.
And then it all went wrong.
Oh God.
So one by one, people started falling out, getting sick, sick. I was like one of 28 and I was a charge nurse of the unit. So I really didn't have a lot of patient contact. I would say the times that I did have patient contact was the worst because I was always in a code or a rapid response. But I think the problem there was, so our entire unit was considered infectious. So you had PPE on all day long. So when you stepped onto the unit, you were in a shield. We had goggles, we had N95s, we had surgical masks, we had literally everything. But I think the problem was that we had a lot of patients intubated and on high flow oxygen, and it was just we didn't have enough negative pressure rooms. We only had 2 negative pressure rooms of a 30-bed unit, because what are you supposed to do? Well, think about what it would cost to create 30 extra negative pressure rooms. Billions. Like they don't have that kind of money.
No.
So you have free-flowing air COVID, just like this, all inside the unit, just everywhere, floating
making sure everyone
everywhere.
Gets it.
And it doesn't matter when you think about it, how much PPE you have on. If there's a speck of it on your body, when you walk out of there, it's game over.
Right.
And I think it could have been prevented if we treated each patient's room infectious rather than creating the whole unit infectious. But I don't really know. And it sucks because I left somewhere where I wasn't protected to go somewhere where I was greatly protected, and then I ended up getting sick. So
that is the most ironic thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I know, it's crazy.
Okay,
it's so crazy. But yeah, I mean, I started having a sore throat, and I had a tonsillectomy about 3 years ago. FYI, that was the worst experience of my life. Anybody who's listening to this, if you are an adult, do not get a tonsillectomy.
Wait, is that a bad reaction to the anesthesia or just
no,
the recovery
not at all.
sucks?
It's one of the top 3 most painful surgeries to have as an adult. It's like somebody taking a torch to the back of your throat and then having to heal for 2 weeks and scab in the back of your throat in burning pain.
Oh my God.
I
wonder what the other two now. That's the number 3 most painful as an adult. What are the 2? One of them's got to be circumcision.
A burn flap is number 1.
Okay, granted.
I don't know the third one. But anyways, so I had a sore throat, and I hadn't had a sore throat since I had a tonsillectomy, because that was the whole reason I had the procedure done. And I was like, oh shit, that's weird. And then I woke up the next day drenched in sweat out of my sleep, and I was like, fuck.
Oh no. It's like, oh, here it is. I've seen this before.
So I went to urgent care. They did a rapid panel on me. It was negative. Told me to go home, rest, blah, blah, blah. 3 days later, got so much worse, super weak, could barely walk to the bathroom. I was like, I have COVID for sure. Like, I'm a runner. I run every single day, miles and miles. Like, if I can't walk to the bathroom, there's a serious problem.
Yeah.
So I went back. They did another rapid test. It was negative again. And then they were like, all right, we're going to do the culture. So the difference between the rapid and the negative, for anyone who's listening to this, the rapid test is a small swab that goes in the lower to the mid portion of your nasal cavity.
Actually, hang on, pause.
It doesn't go up far.
Pause
so
real quick. Can you hear me okay?
That's the rapid panel test. That's what, yeah.
Hey, sorry. So your bandwidth on your side apparently is kind of shitty. I'm getting like the video is real choppy, but the audio is starting to come choppy too. So I'm wondering, try turning the video off. Let's try just going old school audio with it and see if that improves the audio quality.
Better?
Yeah, cool. Now you don't sound like a broken robot.
Okay.
All right, awesome. So you're describing the rapid panel versus.
Yeah, so the rapid is like a tiny Q-tip that goes in the nose. It's not painful at all. It's super quick. You get the results in like 40 minutes. the culture test is either a throat swab, like you would do strep, or it goes up the nares into the nasal cavity very high, and it's very painful. It literally feels like it's going into your brain. It makes you cry, like it's bad.
Ugh.
So they were like, you had two negative rapids and you're still symptomatic. We're going to do a culture. So they call me back 3 days later, culture is positive. Now, that's my concern. Think about how many patients have come into urgent care or an emergency room and had a rapid panel done, and then they sent them home and told them they were negative. That's
and then
scary.
days later, they're positive.
Those are large numbers. Yeah, those are large numbers that we're not including into our percentage of infected people. So, I mean, it was rough. I had fevers, and I think the lethargy was like the worst part because I'm never like a super tired person. I'm really active and I'm always hyper and like ready to go.
Right.
So that was like tough for me. And the most difficult part about the virus in itself, it sounds so dramatic, but it literally was losing my taste. Like not being able to enjoy food. You don't realize how much you take that for granted of how much that's such a quality of life. Like,
oh, for sure. I don't know if you messaged me, if I saw you on Facebook talking about
like
that.
These older people. Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know you had it. And then you couldn't taste anything. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. And then I think about all these elderly people who they tell you like they start to get depressed because they lose their taste buds. I totally understand it now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
So how long would you say you were sick for?
I was sick for about 6 days.
Okay. So probably because you're so healthy normally, you probably bounce back pretty quick. But how long
I mean, I'm like a health freak. Like I'm very healthy, conscious about what I eat. I work out every single day. But the taste and the smell was about two weeks. It was like right at the 2-week mark it came back, which is what's happening to everybody, which is crazy. It's almost like it's programmed. Like it's so weird.
That's nuts. So were other people in your unit that got sick too? Were they experiencing the same kind of thing?
The same exact symptoms, except for one other guy on my unit. He was in ICU for about 2 weeks. He was intubated. He was really having a difficult time. He was young too. He was in his 30s, late 30s. But I did find out later on from his wife that he did have medical problems. I don't know what he had, but he did.
Okay. That's a bummer though, too. So I've been seeing a lot of people, especially those like my friends in the healthcare who have been more exposed to the virus. I guess I don't know if there's a correlation between them just being exposed more, getting a bigger viral load, and then having worse symptoms or even outcomes.
I really feel that I think viral load has a big thing to do with it, but I really feel like there's multiple strands. So about 3.5 weeks before I left to Africa, I had a severe respiratory virus. I was really, really sick. The doctor wanted to admit me into the hospital, and I was like, I'm not going to the hospital for this. I'll be fine. I'll stay home. She allowed me to stay home. I told her my mom was going to fly down. My mom flew down, met with my primary care physician in the office, and she showed my mom how to administer breathing treatments to me, and she gave me all my steroids at home. And I could not breathe. I've never experienced something like that. Like I just couldn't take a full breath. I couldn't go up and down my staircase. Now, when I got sick this time with COVID, it was not near as bad as that. That was like what I had this time times 5. And I swear to you, I had COVID then.
Your story there sounds more convincing than everyone else I hear saying, oh, I had sniffles in January. I must have had it before.
Oh yeah, no, it was
that
insane.
From you sounds way more legitimate. I believe that.
But the only thing that makes me think it might not have been, this is the only thing that steers me off of it might not have been, is they did 2 chest x-rays of me and they were both normal. Which is kind of weird.
Yeah, you think if you had that much trouble breathing, you'd think.
But they just kept calling it bacterial bronchitis. And but oh my God, it was so bad. Like I haven't been that sick ever in my entire life.
How long did that last for?
About
Roughly?
9 days, 10 days.
I mean, so they thought it was a bacterial infection. They give you antibiotics, but.
She put me on a Z-Pack, and then after I finished the Z-Pack, I didn't get better. And then that's when we resulted to steroids and breathing treatments. And then after I started steroids and breathing treatments, oh my God, I started to make a turnaround in like 48, 72 hours.
Okay, so yeah, so that would reinforce the idea.
And so this is even crazier. This is what's even crazier. Okay, so think about where I was going. I was going to Africa, right?
Right.
I was taking prophylactic malaria medication.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Which is what treats COVID.
Wait, which one were you? Remdesivir? Is that what you were taking?
I was taking what's the other name for remdesivir?
I'd have to Google it. Which I'm going to.
I want to say Remeron. Is that right?
It
Is that what I was taking?
It sounds right. Hang on,
Or no, Malarone. I was taking Malarone.
I think it's not. I Google it, and all the results are all related to the COVID stuff. But
yeah,
anyway,
I was taking Malarone. But
either way,
it's
an antiviral. So you're on the Z-Pack, and then they put you on anti-malarial.
I'm like,
I mean, it's just like the whole thing is crazy.
The puzzle fits.
Yeah.
That's nuts. So they didn't even realize anything about it, and you just happened to be prescribed and happened to be taking. What a
it's so crazy.
Anti-malarial, antiviral medication, and they put you on a Z-Pack for something that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
But since then, you said, we were talking before we started recording, but since then you said you haven't had any symptoms, you can't tell us.
No, nothing that's deficits. Nothing that's carried over.
Eating's fun again.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So I don't want your connection to crap out on this any more than it has. But I just want to say really thank you so much for doing this with me. And
yeah, no problem.
Is there anything else that you would want to say, like, to healthcare people? Well, let's touch on the mental health aspect too. So, like, what are some things that you were able to get out to take like a mental health break and get into different environments. So what are some things you've been doing to reinforce that during all the chaos, especially with the last week under our belt too?
I think it's really important to just it's crazy because this makes me so sad to say this, but there's so many people that I've crossed paths with through life that I realize they don't know what makes them happy in life. Like, a lot of people haven't truly figured that out. And I think it's so important to find that and just stick with it and make sure you have little doses of that every single day. Like, no matter what it is.
It's so tough too, because we're always force fed since we're little. Like, well, this is what makes you happy. You go find a partner in life, or find a job you enjoy doing, or find this or find that. And like, for the longest time, like, I went to EMT school when I was 20. I was super happy. I loved it. Then like, I had my entire identity wrapped around this job, and when it stopped making me happy, it went down a dark road. I'm like, well, what else do I do? And now I've been it's literally June 1st now. So I've been not a first responder for the first time in 10 years for the last 6 months. And for a long time, I'm like, what do I do? And now I'm just talking to friends and doing some writing and stuff. But even now, it's so tough. Then I finally realized, okay, the job's not going to make me happy. Like, these externalities aren't going to make me happy. I got to figure out what do I find meaning in? If there's nobody else in this world, what would I be able to do and find some meaning in? And stuff. Like, and I mean, as cliche as everyone says, oh, go outside, be in nature and all of that. Well, like, now I'm realizing more and more with more research related to vitamin D, especially with this outbreak coming out too. Like, vitamin D is incredibly important. It's way more than just a vitamin. Like, it's a hormone in your body. Oh, the puppies. I'm sad I can't see them anymore. But like, it's a hormone in your body too. Like, Dr. Rhonda Patrick was on Joe Rogan's podcast a little while ago, and I've been sharing some of the research that she's been sharing as well. And it's so, I mean, if they say go out in the sun, you'll be happier, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you're going in the sun, you're already creating more vitamin D, which does have an impact on stuff like your serotonin production, dopamine production, hormone balance, all of it. There's something to that too, for sure. But it's, aside from the cliche stuff, like, take some time to look at what makes you happy. And it's such a weird thing to say, because it's such an arbitrary thing for everybody too. It's like, oh, don't make me happy, but it really is, at the end of the day, there's no one size fits all solution for finding meaning in your life.
Yeah, I think it's like, I see so many people, especially people that are married and have children, like, they become so consumed in, like, either, like, it's the single people, they become so consumed in their job. And then the people who are married, they become so consumed with the other person and what they're constantly doing. And then the people who are married and have kids, they become so consumed with their child, which is like, that makes you a good parent and that's important. But when you aren't your best self and you don't find happiness for yourself, you're not your best parent. Like, you're not your best partner. So you're not giving your best to your partner every day. You're not giving your best to your child every day. You're not giving your best to life every day. Like, it's so important to find the things that you truly love and what make you happy, because at the end of the day, yeah, if your job wasn't there or your spouse wasn't there, or God forbid something happens to your life and it starts to blow up in smoke, like, what are you going to go to find happiness? And if you don't have something that you can think of, like, that's going to be really tough.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I think one of the other things you said, like, anything I would have to say to healthcare providers, like, my number one advice to people who are healthcare providers, if you feel like you're being treated unfairly or something is injustice to yourself or your coworker, speak up. I think so many people are so scared to lose their job, but you need to realize, as a healthcare provider, you are needed. You are very needed. And it's not that easy to lose your job like you think it is.
Yeah.
You have the right to stick up for yourself and speak about what's right or what's wrong. And that's whether or not it's advocating for a patient, advocating for yourself, advocating for a coworker. It doesn't matter. Like, don't be scared to stick up to management and higher ups, because once you continually stick up and other people around you see that that's happening and you have people standing by you, it makes a difference. Like, it really does.
Oh yeah. You can absolutely be healthcare Spartacus.
Yeah.
Start standing up, everyone's going to follow you. But I'm joking aside, like, it is incredibly important, because then I poured from an empty cup for so long. Like, I always thought like the biggest, like, what's one of the first things you would think, like, if you lost a patient, or like the next thing you're like, well, no, I don't want to go home. I gotta get it saved now.
Right.
And you realize, like, you're empty, you're broken. You need to take a break and step back and realize that. Yeah. Because then, like, you'd get that saved. Like, the last day, my last shift of EMS, I got a code save, and I was thinking, like, oh, it's a great way to end it and everything else like that. But then I'm like, I didn't feel so fulfilled as I should have felt, or at least I thought I should have felt, because I was empty. I was mentally broken, and I wasn't taking care of myself. So when I finally stepped back and realized I need to make sure I'm doing what's good for me, and I wasn't advocating for myself or my coworkers like I was. So now every time I get the chance to, I have people like you on who talk about it more and share the same kind of message, share the good word.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So the last thing I heard was a very slow, robotic, yeah, that's awesome. So I think that is a perfect way to end it. I'm gonna end it with slow motion Ashlee. Once again, thank you so much for being here, and for everyone else listening and or watching, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Justin Tyndall. You can find my podcast, Tyndall's Razor, on any place you can find podcasts at this point. Check us out on Facebook, Tyndall's Razor again. And if you want more conversation that cuts through the noise, stick around. Bye, everybody.